Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. Before we go on to the video, I just want to get through some administrative things. Please remember to like this video that you're watching. It really helps our algorithm and our YouTube, and leave us a comment if there's something that you don't understand or something that you need me to address. I try my very best to respond to the comments as much as possible. Open up the description box underneath the video that you're watching. So there's a lot of useful stuff in there. So if you hear me say I'm going to link it in the description below, you're going to find the link in that description box below. And also timestamps. I don't know if we'll need it for this video, but I usually have timestamps in all the videos that we create so that you can navigate better through the videos. And of course, my contact details are also available at the bottom. So let's get on to today's lesson. In today's video, we're going to be going through fine-tuning, and specifically GPT 3.5 Turbo fine-tuning. All right, what is fine-tuning? In short, fine-tuning is when you take an original base model, and in our case, we're going to be using 3.5 base model, and we're going to train it and tune it to produce responses that we want specifically. So if you have a specific niche use case, right? Let's say you're not using it for generic chat conversation and you want to use it for a very specific limited task that you want it to do really, really well. That's where fine-tuning comes in, right? Fine-tuning is different from training the model with your own data, okay? You can still train a GPT 3.5 with your own model, but using the base 3.5, which means it will still respond as any other 3.5 would respond, but it would be augmented with your own extra data. That's a different lesson, and I think we've covered that in our channel. Just search and look for training the chat model, ChatGPT, with your own data. That's a different lesson. Today's lesson is the same data GPT 3.5 has, not your own data, but you wanted to give specific responses. And one of the most common use case that actually I'm going to demonstrate today is, for example, when you wanted to output JSON objects. So right now they've built an entire, there is the whole functions with GPT 3.5 functions where it can output a JSON model depending on how you want it. But when you're using fine-tuning, you can even get that better, specifically when you're building this inside of an application and you want a specific outcome and you want it to be structured in the way that you want it to be structured so that you can use it in later parts of your application. So let's get straight onto it and look at our specific use case of what we're going to be training it for today. And as a developer, I come across this all the time. And I've specifically even Googled this in the past because I was looking for this solution. And I've seen multiple questions on Stack Overflow with this specific problem: how to get ChatGPT to output JSON object very consistently in a certain way so that you can use it later in your application, right? You can obviously do it in the prompt, and you can say, please output the response in a JSON object, right? But we know what happens when you tell it to do that. It starts with explaining what it's outputting, and then it gives you the JSON object, and then it explains at the end, the result again, right? But actually all you want is this. And if you were putting this into a code, you want it to be able to extract just the answer in a JSON object. So you want it to only output the answer in a JSON object. Yes, you can also still try and fix this in a prompt and say only output the object, don't output anything else. And you can give it a prompt that is fixed. But I've learned from experience that when you do that, yes, it works. Sometimes it works half of the time because it's an AI model, right? Every time it thinks and it gives you an answer, right? Despite what you tell it to do, it thinks and gives you an answer. So if you really wanted to actually be more consistent, a better way of doing this is actually to fine-tune it and train it to give it example responses where there's only the JSON object, and then it will understand, that fine-tuned model will understand, I actually only need to give this JSON object and also the format of the object. And I've given a very simplistic object in this case because I didn't have a lot of time to create the the example sort of file, because it takes quite a bit of time. But so this is very, very simplistic. I want this model to output a JSON object that has just two keys and responses, and even the second one is actually a list, right? So this is specifically what I want it to output, so I'm going to train it with that. Okay, so let's go to the beginning, and the use case I've selected is we want it to output a JSON object that's going to be used in an SEO, search engine optimization sort of application or something like that. So let's say you're building an application where people just enter a title of a blog, and then it outputs this response in a JSON object. You could even like do something else with it inside of your application, if you have it in this format, right? So the first thing I did, I went to ChatGPT and I asked, please give me a list of blog topics. So I got a list of blog topics, and then this is the prompt that I used to generate a JSON output. So I asked it, please generate SEO description and a list of keywords for this blog topic, and I gave it the topic, and then I said the description and keywords must be in a paragraph, because sometimes when you ask it to give you keywords, it's going to list it in a bullet point. So I'm very specific. I want it in a paragraph, one after the other, separated by a comma, right? The output should be a JSON object with the keys being description and keywords. So when you give it something like this consistently, it will always produce a JSON object. However, like I said, with ChatGPT, you're going to get this introductory message and whatever. And if you're doing this inside of a program, inside of a Python program, and you wanted to just extract the JSON object, it will be difficult when the response is inside of this, paragraph and everything like that. So we are going to build a trained we're going to customize and fine-tune a model that you can input anything and it always outputs a description of an SEO description and keywords in this format. That's what we're going to do. So go and read through this example that I'm going to link in the description of the video. And remember, just use it to understand. And there's some coding in there, but there's better documentation inside of the OpenAI that explains exactly how to do this in Python. All right. So we're going to use that instead of the code that's provided inside of the blog. So if you actually go to your documentation on platform openai.com, and then you look for under the guide, and under the guide you look for fine-tuning, you're going to come across where it explains exactly how to do this. And we know that the Turbo 0613 is a new one that has just been built for fine-tuning. So that's the one we're going to use. It's the functions model that we're going to use for fine-tuning. All right. So let's go. So what do? The first thing that's required is a JSON list file. All right. It's a JSONl file. A JSONl file is a file that is similar to a JSON file. The only difference is that it has JSON objects in a list, right? And so you can create, and each and every JSON object is an example of, a system message, the user question, and that's the user question, right? And then the assistant response. So if I open the ChatGPT, let me see. If I open the GPT in another window, so that I can just show you, when we do a GPT call, remember when we do a normal chat completion GPT call, we normally have this list of messages, right? And this list of messages would have a system message. This is when you explain to the AI model specifically what it's supposed to do. So you normally would tell it, what are you? You're an assistant. Are you a chatbot? Are you a learning assistant? Are you a sarcastic assistant? This is sometimes where you can enter the personality, sort of the responses. This is a good place to include the kind of things you require when you want it to have a specific output and things like that. So in the system message over here, because we're doing it online, but if I was doing it on the API, this is where I would explain how to output the JSON object, and things like that. So I would put that inside of the system message over there. And then the user message is actually the question. So when somebody goes to a chatbot and types something like the way I've typed what I've typed here, this becomes a user message. this becomes a user message. So in the background, there's already a system message, which we're not seeing right now. And then then after all of that, then you get the assistant response. This is the response from the chatbot itself. Right, so the chatbot has answered and said, yeah, this is answered that question. So you can actually even use this for fine-tuning or trying or directing your chatbot. You could actually include your system, include an example question, include a response, include another question, include another response, and then you will understand how it should respond, right? But this is not the best way, but I'm just explaining to you what these different messages are. So when you go back to the fine tuning, you need to provide a list of these things, right? But you only actually need one system, one user, and one assistant, right? So over here, you'll see we've got one system, all right, one user, and then you've got one assistant. But you have that, then you create a list of them, a list of different variations that this model could potentially encounter. So it could encounter a user that asks them a question, different types of questions, and then you sort of direct it to how it should respond to those specific questions. So this is where you are teaching. So imagine this is a student sitting in a classroom. You are teaching them, if a user asks this kind of a question, answer it like that. If a user asks that question, answer it like that. And the system message usually remains the same if you're training it for the same use case, right? So what you need to do, according to the documentation, is you need to create a list of these, JSONL objects, right? So this is a JSON object. This is a list of these objects, and the entire file is a JSONL file. So you need to create a JSONL file with a list of messages. They recommend that you do, minimum 10 messages. I read somewhere. All right, I can't see where it is now, but I've already gone through this. They recommend a minimum of 10 messages, but I think it can work even from 5. I haven't tested it. And apparently, if you're in a production environment and you really want very high, predictability, you can even go up to 50, 100 messages. At the same time, they also have a token limit of 4,000 tokens. So I don't know. I would just I would just try and find the best combination of, staying within the token limit, but including as much training content as possible. So this is something you want to sit down and take the time to be as specific as possible in fine-tuning the model. In programming and mathematics, we always say junk in equals junk out, right? So the quality of the training content that you're going to give this model, the better the model will perform later on. So if you're gonna do this in a production environment, 80% of your time should be dedicated in creating really quality responses of exactly how you want your model to respond to variable ways users can ask a question. So now over here, you would find all the different variations in which a user can ask a specific question, and you would include them here in the differing user content. Once you've done that, we're gonna go ahead and upload the file. So this code here allows us to upload the file directly to OpenAI using our OpenAI key. Once we've done that, then we create a tuning job, and then once we're done creating the tuning job, we can check in on the job, and later on we can use now our tuned model to get responses, and hopefully now it will give us responses in the way that we want those responses. So in my specific use case, like I said, I want to fine-tune a model that only outputs this specific JSON object in the format that I want it to be output, right? And this is a good way of, if you're a programmer and you want very, very predictable responses that you can then, so that you can know that you always get that, and maybe they feed into another part of your application moving forward. This is one of the best use cases for that. All right, let's get onto it. So I've already saved you time and gone and done a lot of these. I've created a lot of these JSON examples, and I've created a JSONL file. All right, I've explained to you what the JSONL file looks like. So go create your own JSONL file with your own data, the way you want to train your model for whatever use case you want to train it for. Right, so like I said, remember, you can use it for personality training, you can use it for to limit type of responses to certain things, or in my case, I want to output only JSON objects, and there I've added, you can see I did 10 lines. So this JSONL file has got 10 lines in it, and for each line I have, you know, all the information. I've got the system message, the user message, and the response that the AI should give me, right? So I'm going to, the first step is to obviously upload this file. We need to upload this file into OpenAI. So we need an OpenAI key. First of all, let's try and get that. To get an OpenAI key, again, you know, if you're logged in, you just click at the top there, like what I did, and go into View API Keys, and you'll come here, and then you can create a new key, all right? I'm going to call this key Delete Later, which I'm going to delete later. So even when I show it, you know that the key will be gone soon. So I'm going to copy the key, which will be deleted by the time I post this video, all right? So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to say key is equals to that, just so that I saved it and I know what it is, all right? So once we've done that, we need to then go and I can close this window and copy this code, all right? So let's copy that code, all right? And then the key needs to go. The key needs to go in there. Actually, the key just needs to go in there. Yeah. Okay, then I need to give this I need to put this inside of a file or of a function. Upload file, and then I'm gonna put the path of the file in there. Actually, no, let me not call it the path. Let me call it file name. And then we create this. I'm gonna say response is equals to that. All right, and over here I'll put in the file name. Put the file name in there. All right, and then maybe we can define what the file name is gonna be. The file name is gonna be example.jsonl. We're gonna call the file example, and then we're gonna say return response. Yeah. Or we can just return that. Okay. Simplify this function. Okay. So return OpenAI file create, and then I think you're gonna get a file ID or something, which you need to then use for later on when you are creating a job for training. So there's 3 steps. You upload the file, you create the job, and then you wait for the job. Apparently the jobs can be queued and they can take a while. So maybe let's just let's do this first quickly. So I'm gonna save all of this, right? And let's go to where I'm running. I've already got my environment running with OpenAI installed, so hopefully you know how to get to this point. I'm assuming you have a bit of experience with running Python. So I'm going to create the file example.jsonl, right? And then we're gonna just paste everything that's in here. Okay, let's copy all of everything that's in there and paste in here. All right, there you go. Save. So once we've saved this file, we can then create I'm just going to call it finetune.py, and we're gonna paste what's in here. Right. So once we've done that, let's open a Python shell, and then let's run this. So if we run this file, basically we should be able to get this response from the OpenAI, and hopefully from there we'll be able to see what the file name is if everything goes well. So actually, let me put it into a variable. Let me call it r is equals to that. Okay, from from fine tune import. Actually, let's just import this function, import only this. All right, now it's defined and we should be able to run it. This is going to be a problem. I think I need to define the file name because I didn't import everything. So let's define the file name. It's fine. And then let's then run it. Let's just copy this R. So what's this? So purpose is fine-tuned. So why do I have purpose in here? Okay, so that's my mistake. Okay, it's just a typo. All right, so now that I've defined the file name in there, I actually don't need to input it in there at all. All right, and then I can define it in here inside of the function itself, which is probably better. Okay, yeah, let's actually we don't need to save this. Let's exit out of here. Let's exit out of here. Let's clear. Let's rm fine-tune.py and let's nano fine-tune.py. All right, let's just paste all of this in there again. All right. Save and close. It's clear. Let's open a Python shell. From fine-tune import, we need to import this uploaded file function. All right, and then we can run it. Yeah. Cool. So let's look at R. What's in R? There you go. So I'm just going to take this entire response and paste it in here so that I can see it later on and what's in there. So basically, there you go. It's a file that's created, and that's the file ID and the purpose and the byte and everything uploaded. So everything it uploaded without a hitch. Okay. So when you now do the fine-tune model, when you now doing the job, because this is just uploading, now you actually have to do the actual task of now using that file you uploaded to actually do the fine-tuning. So for that, we need this code. All right, so let's write another function in here, and we're going to call it def the fine-tune task. I'm going to call it task so I don't rename, something else. And then inside of this task, what we need is this training file, right? So we need the training file, and the training file is this file ID. So it's the file.abc123, which is this file dot whatever the file ID we've got here. So I'm going to copy that file ID and paste it in there. And then we need the model, all right? So the model, 3.5 Turbo, you can use that like what's on the documentation, but actually we do know that if you read at the top here, that you can actually fine tune with the new functions model. I'm just trying to remember where I read that. There you go. So these are the available models. So actually we can use this one, the Turbo 613, because this model actually is the latest best performing model. So we're going to fine tune that with that model, and then we are going to then run the function. So we're going to say return this. Okay, return that training file is equals to training file, and a model is equals to model. Okay. Right, and then we're going to return that. Okay, so we can exit out of this, and then we can say nano fine-tune.py nano, and then we can add the new function in here, the new fine-tune task. So okay, let's paste the new function in here, and we can then close this, and we can, and by the way, if you're watching this video, I think you can, no, you can't actually use my file, even though you can see the file ID because it's a different organization, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to clear this, and then I'm going to open a Python shell again, and then I'm going to say from fine-tune import, I only want to import the fine-tune task this time. All right, and then the response is going to be the fine-tune task. Okay, that was quick. So I think what happens is it doesn't fine-tune while you're sitting here waiting for the API response. What actually happens is when you send a fine-tune task, they explain it in the documentation, but what actually happens is that they then take your task and they queue it, because maybe there's other people using the API that are also trying to fine-tune their own models, and then it could happen in a few minutes, in a few hours, or even longer, depending on what other tasks are there to be fine-tuned. But they explain that once the task is completed, you can they will send you an email to tell you that the fine-tuning is done. You can now use the model, right? But also in the documentation, you can actually get the model ID, and you can then use some of these functions over here to check on the status of the task if you wanted to do it programmatically. And we'll check it out first. But first of all, let's get the response so that we can see the fine-tuning job. All right. So let's just copy what's in here and paste it in there. So this is our fine-tuning job, all right? So you'll see over here that the ID is that FT job there, all right? This is our organization, and this is the file that we're training with, all right? So what you need is this FT job. This FT job at the top, that one, this ID is the one you can use to check on the status of your fine-tuning job, how far it is in the queue, is it done, is it not done? And apparently when the job is done, they'll send you an email, all right? So let's look at some of the coding here to check the status of the job. So retrieve a state, so we can try and use this function over here to retrieve the current status. So I'm gonna make some space, just put it up there, and say def check status of job. All right, and then job ID. Let's definitely feed the job ID in case there's multiple jobs, and then return that. Okay, so this is the job ID. All right, we're gonna return the job ID, and the job ID is actually, the job ID is this one, the FT job at the top, right? So let's paste that and let's check the status of our job ID. All right, so actually what we can do, we don't even need to change the file. We can just enter the job ID in there, right? And then, yeah, just run that function and say R2 is equals to OpenAI fine-tuning job, retrieve that job ID. All right, let me make some space there so you can see what I'm typing at the bottom there. All right, let's enter. Okay, import open. Okay, so I haven't imported OpenAI, I haven't done all of that, so let's just do that. And let's import all of these so we can run the function in here. Then we can try run it again. All right, so if we check our R2, Let's see. So the FT job, that's the model is created at, finished at. So it's not finished yet. All right. And so I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna pause this video. I'm gonna wait for that email when the job is finished. But as you can see, you can use this to check the status of your job. And the event and all of those things, and you can go through the documentation. I will also list this in the description of the video that you're watching right now. Once I get that email, we'll continue with the video and test the model. So I just received I was just trying to log out of here, and before I logged out, I received an email that the fine-tuning job is done. So this is what the email looks like. Let's see if I can show the images. It's just a very straightforward email saying, hey, your fine-tuning job, and they put in the job number is completed, and then they give you a model, you know, the model that you can use going forward. So let's copy that model and put it in here. Let's say, I don't know where we're gonna put it. Let's put it at the top here. Let's say FT model is equals to that. All right. But let's actually like open up Python and try and use our function to check the status of the job and see what we're going to get. So I'm going to again import all of these at the top. And once I've imported that, I'm going to enter the job ID. And then I'm going to try and get the response from that job ID, and let's see what the response looks like now. There you go. So once the fine-tuning job has been done, if you look at the fine-tuning job here, a lot of these null things are going to be filled. So let's remove that and paste the new fine-tuning job object, which now includes the actual model itself. So this model is the model that was emailed to me as well. So going forward, when you are now, you know, interacting with ChatGPT and you want this specific model to be used, that's what you'll use. Let me just fix this function here. Let me actually put the ID in there and remove that, right? Because we're working with the same ID. So now now that we've tuned the model, let's actually like, you know, run a task. So let's create I don't know, chat response. I don't know what to call this function. Generative response. Let's call it that. And we're going to enter a prompt, right? And then we're going to select the model. No, we're going to run this function. So let's just paste it in here. Okay. Dish. So that's the model, the function, the model. We're going to call this model, we're going to call this our FT model, which we're going to define what the FT model is. We will define it in here. All right. And then the messages, I mean, the messages, you are a helpful assistant. It's up to you what messages you want to give it. I actually want to remove the, you know, the system message. Actually, let's leave the system message. So let's define the system message at the top and say system message is equals to, we'll define it, what it is. And we'll just say you are a, you know, let's put a system message in here. Okay, that's the system message. And then the user is the prompt. Whatever you've given there, the prompt, that's the user message. Okay. And the prompt can be a blog title, and then we want to be able to then get you know, a JSON object with everything based on just that. Okay, so then we need to then get the what is it? So we said completion is equals to so then we need to get the completion choices message. We need to return this. All right, so we need to return the choice is 0.message, okay, and hope that it is our JSON object. So let's enter the FT model. This is our model. Let's define it in there. The system message I'm going to use is, I'm going to use the exact system message I used in my jsonl file. So I want to find this system message in JSON format. So it will be actually a good idea to use the same system message, because that's how you trained your model. So you want the model to remember, to sort of look back and be like, oh yeah, that was the system message that I was receiving. And then the blog, in this case, I'm just going to enter a blog title and it should just give me what I want, right? So let's test this. Let's actually copy this function. Let's actually exit out of here so that we can clear this and we can bring everything back to the top so you can see what I'm typing. All right, so Python is that, and then we're going to start by importing everything, including the OpenAI key. And then we're going to just load the function. Okay, let's just load the function. All right. And then the function includes all the things in there. Then once we've done that, we should be able to enter any prompt and get the response that we want. So I'm going to enter a prompt, and I don't know, let's think of a blog. I don't even have energy to think right now, so I'm just going to have a look at some of the blogs it generated for me there. Let me pick one random one. Okay, let's pick that. Okay, so let's make that the prompt, and then let's see what we get as a response. Okay, generate response using that prompt. Looks like it takes a bit longer than usual using a custom model, because I think using the standard model I would have had a response by now. There you go. Okay, so it is a JSON object. You can't see it, right? So actually what I should have done is I should have put this in a variable. Damn it. Let me put it in a variable. So I'm going to run it again. I should put it in a variable so that I can clean it up and show you. There you go. So let me import JSON, right? And then let's have a look at this. So I need to actually get r.content. Okay, I need to get r.content. This is the answer. You see, this is the JSON object, right? And it gave it in the exact same format that we wanted. Very so there's the description over there. You can see it, right? And then after the description, you get the keywords, right? And the keywords are this transformative power, okay? But what I don't see is the keywords are not inside of a list. So let me import JSON so I can properly view this. And let me say JSON.load. Let's load the r.content. All right. Loads r.content. There you go. I need to use JSON.load. So this actually shows you the JSON object as it should be, right? Without the, because this is actually a string, a JSON in a string. So I've just cleaned it up to make it a proper JSON object. So if you actually said JSON.loads, then you would get this as a Python dict that you can then deal with and say whatever the description and get into the description, and then .keywords to get into the keywords. So this is actually, I've demonstrated to you how to consistently, and you can try this at home and use any format that you feed into the training model, right? Any format of output that you want, and give it to it consistently, and hope not hope, and then when you use that model, it should consistently be able to give you the response. And one good thing that I want to mention right now before I end this video as to why not just put this in the prompt, as because sometimes it works in the prompt as well. In my experience, you can put all of this in the prompt. So when you create a prompt, you can tell it like the way you've done it here. You can tell it output JSON, and you can say remove the introductory message and whatever, and you can put it in the prompt. If you write the prompt really well, right, you can include it in the prompt. But the only way I've ever gotten it to work consistently in the prompt is if I include the example in the prompt as well. So you can create the prompt, explain really well in the prompt, remove this, remove that. Here's an example of an output. And you put that example in the prompt. It actually works very well. The only problem is that it doesn't work consistently. So when you put the example in the prompt, sometimes it works. Maybe it works 90% of the time. So if you had this in an application that you needed to take the output into another part of your app downstream, you would have a 10% error rate, or 9% or 5%, because it works 90%. Sometimes it just goes back and does the opposite of what you tell it, even though it has done it 9 out of 10 times. This way, you would get it to, if this doesn't give you the answer you want, for example, the first time, you can adjust your training file and you can retrain it. You can add more, because I said actually you can add up to 50 examples. I only put 10. So the more examples you put, the better. So the nice thing about the fine tuning is, if it's not giving you the response you want, you just need to adjust the fine tuning. But if you can adjust the fine tuning and you get it to work once, it will always work, because that's how you fine tuned it. So if this was not what you wanted, like I don't see the list here, I probably need to enter more example and fine tune it a little bit more. Maybe add another 20 more examples, showing it that no, I want this in a list. You understand? Or maybe even include that in the system message that this should actually be a list, for example. All right. So with that, guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the description of the video there, sort of, what exciting fine-tuning examples you're going to be working with, and I'll see you guys next time.